What's up, everybody? My name is Zach Pasquarello. I have a bookkeeping business, Harrisburg Bookkeeping. I've been doing bookkeeping, accounting, and taxes for the past 3 years. I also have a trucking company, started that about 2 years ago. I make a lot of videos talking about bookkeeping, talking about trucking, but today I'm going to talk specifically about how to use QuickBooks to file your 1099s. So whether you have a trucking business or a software company or a marketing agency or you're a general contractor or a real estate investor, no matter what industry you're in, this video will help you file your 1099s with QuickBooks for free. Now, before I get started, I'm going to put in the description below my email address. If you have any questions, if you need any help with your bookkeeping or taxes, send me an email. I would be happy to work with you. Also, I have a course for trucking business owners. I have a QuickBooks course, and I'll link that in the description below. The course is about 90 minutes long, and it teaches you everything you need to know about QuickBooks. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. It's January, so your 1099s are due very soon. So if you had business in 2022, if you paid any vendors or contractors, you owe them a 1099. But the caveat is you had to have paid them more than $600. And you also had to have paid them via cash or check. So if you paid somebody with a credit card, they don't get a 1099 because they will get a 1099 from their credit card processor. So 1099s only get sent to people that you paid via cash, check, or ACH direct deposit. And it's also only for labor or services. So if you bought supplies from somebody, they don't get a 1099. It's only for things like contract labor, bookkeeping, taxes, attorney fees. Maybe you paid a mechanic to fix your truck, or maybe you paid a plumber to come into your rental property and fix your toilet. Or maybe you have independent contractors who work for you. So maybe you are a marketing agency and you have independent contractors who work for you to do like advertising or marketing for your clients. So any independent contractor that you pay, anybody who's not an employee that you pay that does labor for you, they get a 1099. And I'm going to show you how to send 1099s completely for free through QuickBooks. Okay, so to get started, first of all, you need to give a W-9 to everybody before you pay them. Vendor, contractor, attorney, accountant, repairman, I don't care who it is. If you're going to pay that person, make sure you get their W-9 information before you pay them. Very important, because if you pay some random guy $1,000 to, fix your truck or do some work for you at your rental property, he might not ever fill out the W-9 because he might not want to be held responsible for these taxes. So what's important is you get their W-9 information before you pay them. And it's super simple. So I have up on the screen here the form W-9. You can get it straight from the IRS website. And all you need is their name right here in box number 1. And then more than likely, they're going to be an individual or a sole proprietor or a single member LLC. So they just have them check this box. Now, if they are a C corporation, not likely. If they are an S corporation, possible. If they are one of these two corporations, you are not required to give them a 1099. But if they are an individual, sole proprietor, single member LLC, or a partnership, they do get a 1099. So you want their name, you want them to check one of these boxes. Don't worry about number 4. Number 5, their address. So once you file their 1099, the IRS will mail them the 1099. So your address, their city, state, and zip code. And then don't worry about this here. Don't worry about number 7, list account numbers here. That's optional. And then if they are an individual or a sole proprietor, you will get their social security number. If they are a partnership or an LLC or a corporation, you will get their EIN, their employer identification number. And then finally, all they have to do is sign right here. Sign here and give you a date. So very important. This is the first step in filing your 1099s. You need to get a W-9 from all of your vendors and contractors. Okay, now let's jump over to QuickBooks. So I mentioned that you can file your 1099s completely for free. What I mean by free is that you don't have to pay anybody else to do them. You don't have to pay your bookkeeper. You don't have to pay your CPA. If you are a business owner, you can file your 1099s completely for free on your own. There is one caveat. You do have to pay a small fee to QuickBooks just for the software to electronically file your 1099s. It's like $3 or $4 per 1099, but that's way less than what you would probably be paying your CPA to file your 1099s. Most CPAs charge anywhere from $15 to $30 per 1099. So to pay $3 or $4, really not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through all the steps from beginning to end. So first of all, you need to be using QuickBooks properly. So you need to have your transactions categorized appropriately, and you also need to have your vendors added into your QuickBooks correctly. So I have here a dummy account. You can see up here in the top, trucking company, and I have 6 made up transactions right here. They're all in 2022. So you file your 1099s for the previous year. So it's 2023 now. So your 1099s that you file in January 2023 are for the entire year of 2022. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to categorize these transactions. So you have a driver here. Let's start with this driver. So there's 2 different ways to add your vendor details. This is a very important step whenever you're filing your 1099. So your vendor, it needs to match the W-9. So we have a driver here. So under vendor, we're going to add new. And then you need to click on details. So you need to click on add details. And now this is a person. So the person's name is driver, last name 1, display name, the display name automatically populates with whatever the first and last name is. And then the address, you're going to get the address straight from the W-9. Don't worry about, add whatever notes you want, add whatever attachments. Sometimes I add the W-9 to their attachments here. Email, you can put their email in here. That way they get their W-9 straight to their email and they don't have to wait for the mail. So that's nice. Phone number, don't worry about that unless you want to. Account number, don't worry about that. So this is important right here. The business ID number, which is their EIN, or their social security number. So if you have a first name and last name, that is telling QuickBooks this is a person. So that means you need to enter in a social security number for a person. And then the most important step is you need to click this button here, track payments for 1099. That's it. First name, last name, address, get the address from their W-9, email, optional, but good to include, and the social security number, you also get that from their W-9. So you add that, and then you want to categorize this appropriately. So if I had a driver, I would consider that cost of labor. You can call it independent contractor, you could just call it labor, whatever. It doesn't really matter how you categorize it as long as you're consistent and as long as it makes sense with what that person or company is doing. So driver, cost of labor. Okay, so I already have these categorized. So driver 2, cost of labor, I already have that person in there. Dispatcher, once again, you can create a new category for dispatcher if you want, or you can just make it cost of labor. Attorney, so if you hired an attorney, oftentimes there's a category for legal and professional fees. We're going to go ahead and add that. And then bookkeeper. So you can create a separate category for accounting and bookkeeping services, or you can just roll it all into legal and professional fees. I see a lot of people do both. It doesn't really matter. It's all personal preference, but for this scenario, we're going to say bookkeeper, legal and professional fees. And then finally, we're going to add your mechanic. So a lot of mechanics, if you're going to Fleet Pride or Love's or a TA, they're not going to get a W-9 because obviously they're corporations. But if you're going to some mom and pop diesel shop that is just like one dude or just a small company, chances are they might get a 1099. So you want to make sure you get a W-9 from them. So with the driver, we did first name, last name. But with this mechanic, we're going to do company. This is a very important distinction. So company for an LLC, first name, last name for an individual. Once again, we'll do the address, and you get that straight from their W-9. Email, yep, optional but recommended. Now this is important. So because this is a company, they're going to have an EIN. So that's 2 digits dash 1, 2, 3, 6 or 7 numbers after the dash. So it's different than a social security number. Social security number is 123 dash 45 dash 6789. The EIN is 12 dash, so it looks different. So you should be able to differentiate. And then finally, most important step, track payments for 1099. So person gets social security number, company gets EIN. Important distinction there. Save that. Mechanic, repairs and maintenance. Okay, so we have categorized all of your transactions for 2022. This is just a made up scenario. So we categorized all of your transactions for 2022. I did forget to mention one thing. So my QuickBooks right here might look a little different than yours does. And that's because if you click on the gear icon in the top right hand corner, I have the accountant view. So if you switch, so you might be, if you're looking at your QuickBooks and following along with what I'm doing, you might be looking at the screen that looks like the business view, and it's perfectly fine. I just don't use that view, so I'm not familiar with it, and it probably looks something like this. So for this particular scenario, if you're trying to follow your 1099s and you want to follow along specifically with me, go to the gear icon in the top right hand corner and click switch to accountant view. Okay, so now that we have your transactions categorized, we will go to taxes on the left hand side here. Taxes, 1099 filings. Let's get started. So it is important, you need to have your company's information. So for the legal address of your company, whatever address is associated phone number, you need to have a phone number. And then you need to have your EIN. If you don't have an EIN, don't pay someone to get you an EIN. It's so incredibly easy. Just go straight to the IRS website. You can literally get an EIN in 5 minutes. You don't need to pay anybody to do it. The IRS gives you an EIN completely for free. Okay, so you have all of your information here. This is your company's information. Next, we need to choose the account. So QuickBooks doesn't make it super simple, but let me show you how to do it. So most likely you're just going to choose this, non-employee compensation, 1099 NEC. But you need to choose the accounts. So you need to remember which accounts did you associate the particular vendor transactions that get the 1099. So that's why I said it doesn't really matter how you identify the categories for your transactions, as long as it makes sense, and more importantly, as long as you're consistent. So every time you pay your driver, you want to make sure you do cost of labor. So we know cost of labor is going to get a 1099, so we'll check that box. Legal and professional fees, most likely going to get a 1099, we're going to check that box. Repairs and maintenance, once again, we hired a mechanic, so we're going to check repairs and maintenance. There's going to be a bunch of other categories in your QuickBooks like bank charges and fees, insurance, job supplies, utilities. All of those things don't get a 1099 because you're not paying somebody for labor, or you're not paying somebody for services. But cost of labor, independent contractor, subcontractor expense, legal fees, maybe advertising and marketing, maybe if you hire like an ad agency, or repairs and maintenance, all of those things most likely are going to get a 1099. So first of all, you need to select the appropriate chart of accounts, and then we'll go next. And now all of the people who you checked that box for track payments for 1099. That's how they show up here. So if you made it to this step and you're like, wow, there's nobody on my list, what's going on? It's because in your vendor details, you did not check track payments for 1099. So you need to go back into each individual vendor and check that box, track payments for vendor. So we have all of our contractors, all of our vendors here who are eligible for a 1099 because we checked that box. And QuickBooks will tell you if you're missing any of this information. So we have all of their addresses, we have all of their tax ID numbers. Like I said, the email is optional, but if you need to edit any of the vendor information, you can edit it straight from this 1099 screen. Just click the edit button right here. Okay, so everything looks good. We're gonna go next. Now, this is important. So QuickBooks will automatically determine if the vendor or contractor gets a 1099, and that is based on how much you paid that person. So if we go back, we can see that we have 6 people on this list, but we go next and only 4 people or companies show up, and that is because the other 2 people, we did not pay $600. We paid them like $400 and $500. So they do not get a 1099. You only send people a 1099 who you pay $600 or more. So we have attorney, bookkeeper, dispatcher, and driver 1 are all getting a 1099. And if you want, you can click here, 1099 contractors below the threshold. You can double check, okay, driver 2, yep, 580, mechanic, yep, 400. Okay, so they are not getting a 1099. And then you can also click here, contractors not marked for 1099. So this will show up all of your vendors who have not been marked to track payments for 1099. So all we really care about right here is the 1099 contractors that meet the threshold. We have all 4 of them here. Finish preparing 1099s. And then I'm going to stop there, but this is all you need to do. E-file for me. So $3.99 per 1099, which is super cheap. I know I said it's for free, but what I meant by that is you don't have to pay anybody else to do it. You can do it all on your own. You don't have to get an envelope. You don't have to get a stamp. You don't have to print any papers. You don't have to hire a CPA or a bookkeeper. All you need to do is just have a QuickBooks account, categorize the transactions appropriately, get the W-9 from your vendors and contractors, and you can file your 1099s through QuickBooks all on your own. So I hope this video was helpful. If you guys have any questions, my email address is in the description below. If you need help with your bookkeeping or taxes, reach out. I'd love to help.